In order to read and write to storage, we're going to need to first create a file pointer.
This video is brought to you by OppiePies Academy.
The file pointer simply points to the file that contains the information we're reading and writing. So that looks like this. I'll call the file pointer myFile. And then I'll use the open command, and I'll provide the open command with two pieces of information. And you'll notice here how already the idle development environment is helping me with the open command. It's showing that we need a name of our file, which is just the name it's going to be stored under. And then we need optionally a mode and buffering. We're not going to use buffering, but we are going to use the mode. So let's name the file family.txt. That'll be our file name. And let's enter the mode. So the mode is simply the access mode for the file itself. It wants to know the purpose of us opening this file. So one of the options is R for read. Now, we're not reading a file here, so this is not the appropriate access mode, but you will see R for reading. You'll also see R+, which is for reading and writing. But we're not reading the file, we're actually going to be writing the file, and you've probably guessed that it's W, and we're going to use a B for writing a binary file. Now, if the file doesn't exist, write mode will actually create the file for us. So since there'll be no family.txt in the folder where our Python script is executing, it'll create a family.txt file. Now be careful, because if you are opening a file and it does exist, the way I have this pointer, it's going to overwrite the file. There are a couple of modes for appending files, and those begin with A. So if we had A, we would append to the end of a file. And that's very useful if you're opening a file that already exists and you don't want to destroy the content that's already in there. All right, so we've gone ahead and created our file pointer. Now we actually use our file pointer in order to write to our storage. So with the file pointer name, I'm going to use myFile.write, and then in parentheses, whatever string I want to write. So I'm writing the names of some people in my family. So Mark, my mom, Joan, my brother, Brett, a couple more here. So you see the pattern already. Just whatever we want to write, we put in a string here. Now, of course, this could be contained in a variable. I'm hard coding the strings that I want to write, but you could just as easily, for example, take input from a user and code that. All right, so now I've got my document. I'm storing this as filestorage.py. All right, so let's go ahead and open a new command line window, and let's move to our Python folder, and then let's run Python filestorage.py. And it looks like nothing happened, right? Because we didn't put any output here, which I'll correct in a second. But now let's ls here, and notice there's filestorage.py. And if we look, there's also family.txt. So if we take a look at what's in family.txt, I'll open it up using a text editor that exists within the command line called vi. There's Mark, Joan, Brett, Carrie, Rose, Rick. Now notice how they're all smashed together like that? And that's because we never gave the program any direction to actually go down to the next line, right? We didn't put any line breaks in there, and we physically have to do that. So let's go ahead and add a \n for a new line after each one of these. Now remember, because we're using WB, it will write and it'll create a new version of the file and overwrite what's already there. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And let's run our file again. There we go, Python filestorage.py. All right, and now let's look in VI at family.txt. And now we have one name per line. So the new line characters are embedded in here. You can't see them, but new line is very much a character, just like 1 or 6 or R or lowercase l. So there we've got all of the content that we wrote here in the actual file. So let's go ahead and quit out of our command line here. We don't need that anymore. And let's add some actual output to our program. Now, one of the things about the file object is it's got some constants that can provide us some information about the file. So let's use those. So let's say print just wrote the file. And then if we use my file, using the pointer, dot name, that'll give us the name of the actual file we just wrote. So it should say just wrote the file, family.txt. We can also print out opened file in mode, and then we can use another one of these constants, myfile.mode. Now, real important, I didn't do it the first time, but whenever you're working with a file, you should use the close command. That closes off the file and basically tells Python we're done with it and eliminates the file pointer. So you always want to close after you read or write a file. All right, so let's go ahead and run it again with the modifications that we made. So moving to the folder, and it's called, let's make sure we're saved here. I see the little asterisk up there, which tells me you didn't save, so there we go. So let's go ahead and now run this using the Python interpreter, and it's called filestorage.py. And there we get, just wrote the file, family.txt, open the file in mode WB. And now let's just take a look at family.txt, and there are all of our names. So that worked just perfectly. So we just talked about creating a file pointer with the open command, giving that file pointer a name and an access mode, writing directly to our file, and then using some of the constants to output information about the file before we use the close command to close off our file interaction.